we'll get started.
Yeah,
Didier, welcome to the show.
thank you, Harrison.
Yeah, most welcome. As always, the way in which I like to start these conversations is just going straight in. What life events have brought you up to this point in time
Yeah,
today?
yeah, because that's a massive question, because there are so many life events that brought me here in the end. I've been blessed with two parents that gave me an extreme freedom to grow up and to give me the ability to make a billion mistakes and love me anyway. And I really understand now, being soon to be 40, like in April I turned 40, man. Can you imagine? I don't know where the time went, but it's happening. And now I understand really deeply, being a parent myself of two beautiful kids, how they raised me and why I am who I am and why I experienced that roller coaster in an extreme way, and received all those lessons because of that, because of the freedom that I got from my parents. Yeah. So, but then again, I also understand that they saved me in a billion ways as well by keep loving me, because on that path of being a rebellious kid, in the end, I was raised by two amazing human beings who love each other 46 years more than anything in the world. So I come out of the roots of love, and I have three sisters who loved me as a king as well. My mom looks to me in a way that another woman has never looked at me so far. So I was raised by love, man. You can't imagine. But still, even being raised in that amount of love, I was a mega rebellious kid. I still don't know exactly why. Maybe it's because I had really young parents. My mom was 17 when she got her first baby. She was 22 when she had four. So it was kids raising kids. My father was 21 and he was a champ of 26 or 28 when he had four kids. So can you imagine? How young are you now?
Wow, so I'm 25 now.
25? Imagine you would have three kids already right now in my father's life.
That was my mum. She had four kids by the age of 25.
It's insane.
It's crazy,
So
right?
it's, in the end, it's kids raising kids, because it is just that way. I understand really deeply right now that when I was 25, 26, that I had so much still to learn in life. I'm 39 now, and it still feels like the beginning to me. Like I still make mistakes on a daily or on a weekly basis that I think like, damn, man, you're not there yet. And I think it will be like that until my last breath when I'm 120 years young. And so, but I deeply realize it's kids raising kids. And so maybe as a little child, I didn't get enough attention because my mom and dad, they didn't have all the nannies that we have today, or the help. Like in Bali, women, with all due respect, they can live the dream, because if they have a man that kinds of has the ability to provide, like has a business going on and gives the woman the ability to be with the child, mostly because of the wages of the nannies and of the helpers, we can also afford to have a gardener, somebody who works in the kitchen, somebody who cleans, somebody who helps as a nanny. So our parents really didn't have that luxury, and I think maybe because of that, as a kid, I was kind of rebellious to get the attention from my father and from my mother, even though that they were always home, but they were always busy, So I feel that maybe this is the base of the rebelliousness that I had within me, because there was a lot, and I don't know the answers to that. So that led me to making a billion mistakes. But my friends along the way who did the same, who made the mistakes, their father and mother often said like, hey, this is not how I raised you. And then ego came into the game, and they pushed their children away, and then they even became more rebellious, or they left house at the age of 16 or 18, and they fell into criminality, and then it went from bad to worse. But because my parents always surrounded me with their wings of love, they always saved me. And so even when I was in a zone of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and being super reckless and pushing them away, they were always surrounding me with their wings of love. So now I really realize that saved me a lot. Yeah. So that did well to me. Yeah.
That's a great perspective to have. I think a lot of the time when we grow up, we start noticing things about our childhood and how that might affect us into adulthood, right? And I think a lot of the time we can stay in that period of sort of resentment and looking, it should have been this way. But again, I think a lot of the time parents do the best that they can. And
yes,
you mentioned there that they were children raising children, but the reality is I think we're all just children in adult bodies, right?
For the rest of our lives, there's this inner child with the program, with the roots that we have been given, And so when we grow up, we understand more and we can work on that. Because I truly believe that the moment we enter the egg, being a sperm, that from there on we get programmed by the feelings of our parents, by the program of our parents, what they experience even in the belly. If the relationship is not well between mom and dad and mom is in full fear, I'm absolutely sure as a baby we get this fear with us. And then the first 7 years are the magic, because everything is open with us as a child, and whatever we receive in that moment becomes our reality for the rest of our days. And I've lost my kids at a certain point during breakups, and so that's why I educated myself so deeply about children and about moms and energy and gratitude and love and respect and listening to people, because we lose for a reason. If we're ignorant, if there's ego, we don't learn, and we repeat the same mistakes over and over again. But if we humble the shit out of ourselves and the universe or God, I dare to say God right now gives us the right amount of lessons in the level that we have the ability to reprogram our matrix, because it was breaking us apart, and you have the openness to listen, then you grow a lot. And so all my life I've never read a book so far. I've never listened to a full podcast. This will be the first one probably, but I've learned everything from life, and I always had to smash against the wall fully and splatter before I really learned, because before, if I made a mistake once and I survived because of my commercial skills, because of my appearance, because of whatever kind of skill I had to go through that, I didn't learn. But once it went too far and I could not save it, I lost it completely, and I had to vibrationally get it back into my life. That's where I've learned. And so I've learned a lot about parenthood and parents and children and everything around it, a lot,
Yeah, I find that super interesting how, you haven't been huge on the books or podcasts as well, but it's this willingness to be open to life's experiences, right? And we can learn so much, not just from the bad times, but just our daily interactions as well, the people around us, where we react to people.
Oh yes, everybody in our life is a teacher, man. Like my kids have been my biggest teachers so far, but even now recently I worked together with 2 Australian business partners, and they were a mirror for me how I stood in life when I was 26, 27, how rebellious I was in my words, how impulsive I was in reactions, how I had a grin on my face when I got feedback. Like I saw myself so many years ago, and only now I understood how irritating it must have been for the people who were 40, 50, 60. So everybody you meet, even if it's for a week, even if it's for a month, we're all mirrors to each other. And if you're open to it and you have the ability to open your eyes, because the thing is, many times in life, people have told me interesting things, but they were not able to reach me because I was not ready for it yet. And so I got the text, I got the lyrics, I got the point of view, but I didn't get it because I was not ready to get it. And then luckily I have an elephant brain that can go back 10 years to this face, to this person, to that time, and that I could, after 10 years, send a message like, man, you were so right. Like, look, I get goosebumps from it. Like, now I just learned this right now. And so, that's another thing. Like, we have to go through it mostly ourselves before we learn it. We can read about it, we can listen to a podcast, but it will never touch us in a way until we go through it ourselves.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think the amount of times where it doesn't matter how many times someone says something to you, but it won't always click, even if you think you're speaking the same language, the message, you just won't get it, right? And I think this is a big point we've discussed on the podcast quite a few times. Okay, I actually think maybe you have to hit a rock bottom. You have to have that reality check to really learn these lessons, because before then, if you're living a comfortable life with no real setbacks, are you really going to be able to take the messages and grow? I'm not actually sure you will.
Well, I think as a celestial being, we signed some contracts before descending to this boot camp about love and loss, planet Earth. And because sometimes around you see people, they figured it out at the age of 21. And when they are spoken to or when they read it, they take it in. They exist as well, these human beings. They are around us. But I'm not one of those. And a lot of people around me, and I think a lot of people who are in Bali searching for that deep truth, are not like that, like taking it from a book or a podcast and then living it. But there are people who can. So we can't put ourselves all on the same plate, but definitely in my life and in many other lives, you first need to experience it before you understand it. One of my best friends since the age of 12, he talked with me, for example, at the age of 18 about panic attacks. At that moment, I was a guy, my ego was 10 times higher than the church. I was very confident. I was an athletic man. I was a professional football player. The world was at my feet. And even my best friend that I loved as a brother from another mother could not reach with his words my brain while he was speaking about one of the deepest topics that a human being can experience. Because did you ever had a panic attack?
Yes, once.
Once. Bless you that it's only once, and I hope it will be only once, because maybe also in that one time you felt like this is the end. I'm going to die. Like, people will find me on the floor in a few minutes. I'm just going to put some underwear on fast that I won't be found naked. But this is what I felt afterwards, 10 years later, because of things that happened in my life, really serious things. We'll talk about that later. But then I had panic attacks, man, a year long. And wherever I was, sometimes I was in a business meeting, I was suited up, I was talking about big money. I was a crypto trader, broker, and I was selling crypto as well. And we were in a fine restaurant, and suddenly, boom, and then I had to go to the toilet, and then I was laying on the ground, ambulance was picking me up. Always the same routine. It happened hundreds of times to me. And so only then, 10 years later, I gave my friend, who I see often, obviously because he's my brother, but then, only then I was able to tell him, sorry, man, that I didn't understand what you were saying at the age of 18, 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, because now I feel how painful it is, man. And so he was, even if it was 12 years later, he was like, wow, I really appreciate that, Didier, that you are able to tell me this right now. But it's another example of, first we have to live it before we can understand it.
Yeah, what was that exact lesson for you, and how did that relate
the lesson of panic attacks is, look, our body is a temple and gives us the sign of what we do in life, how we see ourselves, how we love ourselves, how we appreciate ourselves, stress, and what we eat and what we do. At that time, I didn't care so much about what I was eating. I was just really sporting a lot to stay fit. But besides that, I was doing drugs, alcohol a lot. I was sleeping less. I was not in a holistic lifestyle of food. Didn't care which kind of burger I was eating with which kind of fries. And so I was really harsh on myself. I was making a lot of money, but I was mega harsh on myself spiritually and physically. And the body responds. And so also the stress that comes from the outside. I was going through a toxic relationship at that point. I just lost a lot of money because of investments that I was doing. I just, I had a carjacking at that moment as well. Two Arabic people put a gun to my head, stole my watch and my Audi RS5 at that moment. And so shit like that happens, but the body responds. And so all of this coming together, and I had a massive amount of panic attacks because of that, and also an autoimmune disease. So in the end, your body is the reflection of how you see yourself, how you feel in life, how far your boundaries go, and that all starts with self-love and with self-respect.
Because I suppose once you start loving all the different parts of yourself, all the different stuff which a lot of the time we hide and we're ashamed by, but once you start really embracing that, suddenly all the external stuff's not going to have as much of an impact on you, right?
100%. You put yourself more in the safe zone, and not by running away from a situation, but by just having your beautiful, healthy boundaries. And so then your body is not so shocked all the time. Your soul is not so shocked all the time because you are more safe for yourself. What you have to learn through the journey of panic attacks as well is learning how to trust your temple, your body, because each time when you're on the floor and you're like a flamingo, like really your muscles are pulling together and you can hardly speak and breathe. I had these moments even when I was still in the hospital that I could just move my eyes, and then in the beginning it's scary as fuck, but right now when I do breath work, and because of breath work you go deep within yourself, you often go into the same situation, and now I love it. I enjoy it because I trust my temple fully, and I just know it's pain and it's things that I've been holding on to for many years and many months that are in 10 seconds releasing and that I'm letting go of. But in that moment, you have two options. If you don't know your temple yet, if you don't trust your temple yet, you go into fear and you only make it worse. It goes from here to here. And that's when you think you're going to die. But if at that moment you trust and you're like, hey, I'm going to be fine. And this is just a journey that I have to go through because my body wants to release something, wants to give me a sign, wants to speak with me. You're living a completely different journey.
This is super important, and we've touched upon it on the podcast quite a few times now, the relationship between the mind and the body. I don't think a lot of the time we realise how important our body is in terms of the messages it gives us, right? In your instance, was it telling you something? Was it telling you, right, you need to slow down, or hang on a sec, you're not looking after me, or this situation isn't right?
In my situation, it was telling me, get out of the toxic relationship, stop working for money, but find a passion, live your dreams, go abroad. It was giving me so many messages on so many different levels, which in the end, I've all listened to. So with me, it turned out that I got the panic attacks because I had an autoimmune disease. You know autoimmune diseases? Do you know sarcoidosis?
I heard about it.
Heard about it? So it's your white blood cells coming together. In the end, it's all because of stress or toxicity, toxins. And with me, it was in my lungs. So when you put my photo of my lungs, the X-ray on the light, you would see all bullets. And so the doctors thought for 3 months, like, whoa, Didier, this is not okay. Or you have Hodgkin, non-Hodgkin lung cancer, or sarcoidosis. Best case scenario, you have sarcoidosis. But okay, for 3 months I didn't know my reality. I was in the boxing ring and fighting one of those options. And obviously I'm the kind of guy that goes to Dr. Google and I make it worse because you read the symptoms. The brain is the strongest muscle we have in the universe, and what we think becomes a reality. So all those symptoms that I was reading became a reality. I'm a mega positive guy, but then I was 3 months with the curtains closed in my bed. I was organizing my testimonial, my funeral. I really felt like I was going to die. My family was crying around me. I had more and more panic attacks. My energy was getting lower. I was not coming out out of the sun. I was not good for myself. And everything was crumbling around me. And the fear that I had in that moment was crazy because I still had a billion things to do in life. At that moment, I was 29. I really didn't want to die, you know. I was not ready to leave yet. And I had so many dreams, so many wishes, such a big passion in my life. I was such a big energy and such a big thrive. But I got this because of all the nonsense that I was doing around me, because of the bad relationship that I was in, because of the drugs, because of the bad food, because of whatever I was surrounding myself with. And my body was saying, stop. And so at that point, after 3 months, finally I get a phone call from the doctor like, hey, I have good news for you, man, because they operated me twice to get some piece of the illness, let's put it that way. How do you say this in English when they take a piece out and then they study the piece? How do you say that again?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You take it out and then they have a piece of the illness. Anyway, you know what I mean, right? They studied it and they were like, okay, it's not cancer, it's sarcoidosis, phase 1, because you can have it in 3, 4, even 5 phases, sarcoidosis. And if you have phase 3, you need a lung transplant. If it goes into your eyes, you get blind. If it goes into your liver or into your heart, it's deadly. So they've done 1,000 tests with me. It was mega scary. And then afterwards, they gave me the ability. They wanted to give me medicine for 5 years. And in 5 years, it should have been healed. And then nothing is coincidence, right? I was laying on a Sunday morning in the bed, and there's this documentaries coming to me on Netflix while I'm still in the bed, The Game Changers and What the Health. And I'm a guy, back in the days, I was very black and white. So suddenly, from eating all the nonsense in the world, I became an extreme vegan because of those 2 documentaries. I chose not to take medicine, but to do it with food. And another topic, a 3rd documentary that came to me at that point was Heal. And Heal gives you the knowledge about manipulating your cells from within with positive thoughts. And for example, having a picture in your hands from pink lungs and then going in meditation, always visualizing your lungs as pink lungs. Like Joe Dispenza is doing right now, right? But I didn't know Joe back in the days. And we're talking about 12 years ago. Was not so famous at that point. So anyway, I do these kind of things. I go back on the internet and I'm full of life again because I feel I get a second chance in life, and I'm all in. And so everything that I've dreamed of, I sold everything in Belgium. I left to Asia, and I went on to this very spiritual journey, which was the start initially for your question that you asked in the beginning. How did you come here? But for me, a big turnaround was the extreme illness, the thought of dying for 3 months. After those 3 months, when I was back on the road, I had this carjacking, but it did nothing to me. I just gave my watch, I gave my keys. I said, guys, have a good day. The only thing what I was a bit afraid of was they were following me for a couple of weeks already. They knew where my parents were living. They described my parents. They said, if you don't send this amount of cash within 24 hours, we'll go to Arnoud and we'll go to Karin, my parents. You was at this party last week wearing this. So they were following me for a while. They sent me videos and everything. So I had a bit of fear because family is everything to me. But in the end, it was like a Miami Vice movie. The cops came to me. I was in the crypto world. I was earning a lot of money. People knew it. People were trying to make advantage of that then and manipulate me to get money. But long story short, it didn't happen. The guys got caught. I got my car back in the end. My parents are fine. This is completely out of my life, luckily. But this was the start for me to go somewhere else in the world, say goodbye to my ex-girlfriend who was doing her thing in Belgium, saying goodbye to my life that I was living in at that moment, and I traveled to Asia, yeah. And then, as a cherry on the cake, a year of veganism and healing. After a year, I needed to check up, which normally you need to do every month. But I said, no, I'm not going to go every month. I don't want to be constantly confronted with my illness. I'm going to heal myself from within, at least try as hard as I can. After 1 year, I flew back to Belgium. My knees were shivering like crazy, and I went into the hospital again, the picture against the wall. And they were like, fuck, man, what have you done? Everything is gone. This is insane. We've never seen this before. And so, yeah, this is when my holistic journey started as well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm keen to jump into that. First of all, I think, wow, that's a lot to digest there. Really, really cool. I really, in a way, I find it pretty cool, actually. Obviously, the story itself is unfortunate, right, with these people sort of, following you around and making your life hell, right? Yeah. But it's interesting that was, as you mentioned, that was the point where you were kind of done with all that. It was almost as if, right, you know what, have this stuff, have this external stuff, and then that's almost like a symbolism, if you will. Okay, right, have that. I'm actually done with that.
Brother, it's a university. You have to take ownership. In that moment, I was a victim and I got ill because being a victim. But now I understand I chose to be in that toxic relationship. I chose to be cheated on and forgive and be with her because I didn't love myself enough and I devalued myself and I allowed this person to do it over and over again with me. Then I became a businessman, and then I earned a lot of money for the wrong reasons. I wanted to take revenge on all the rich business people that she cheated me on, and I wanted to be more wealthy than them and have more muscles than them. And so because of that, I worked the shit out of myself in an industry that you can make a lot of money, but is not really honest. And so I took anabolics to be more strong and powerful than anybody that she cheated me, that she cheated on me with. And so it's all choices in the end. In that moment, you don't understand. You're young, you're immature, you're going through those situations as in, this is the way right now. But now I understand 12 years later, it was all me. And so also that carjacking was connected with the crypto. And so I need to take my ownership. I lost myself €500,000 in that crypto company. And that was a big one because I earned $1 million that year. And the half of what I was earning, I was investing for long-term plans. And I lost it all. There was a Ponzi scheme. It blew up. The people disappeared. We are with 380 plus people in a court case that will never end because the CEO is already... He passed away already. He lived his karma, I guess, and then and the rest of the ambassadors are not to be found right now. I was one of those ambassadors as well, but I did it with my whole heart. And what the pain was for me, the most pain, is that I committed to so many people to invest their 10,000, their 30,000, their 100,000 euro, and they lost it as well. So for me, all that I've been through at that moment was kind of deserved, and luckily, God gave me a lesson that I could survive, but that I could learn a lot from and that I could change from. And so because of that, I'm not in the financial world anymore. I don't sell air to people anymore. When I do a business, I need it to be a business that uplifts people, that brings them to a better health or to a better person than they could be yesterday. And not just because of a commercial story financially, because money doesn't touch my soul at all anymore. Yes, we need it. And yes, I love money. It's a great energy. You need it to go from A to B, but it's not that true and deep happiness. My mission from then on became, I want to create something within life that I can be fully in passion in, and then because of my passion and because of the great energy that is behind it, I can make the money of my dreams as well. It's just an evolution of my dreams. And so whatever happened there was all a bliss in the end. If you look back at it right now, if you look at it, it's a few movies after each other, right? You lose a €500,000, your girlfriend back in the days that you loved more than anything cheated on you like crazy. She even became a luxury escort at one point during our breakup. So at that moment, that demolished me into a billion pieces. I got a carjacking. I lost everything. I had to start over again. I had 1,000 panic attacks. Man, this is all in 1 year what I'm talking about. But this was one of the best years of my life in the end, yeah.
Fuck yeah.
It rooted me as fuck, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's such an important lesson, right? Like, no matter what you're going through, you'll end up looking back at it and seeing it as such a valuable lesson. And I think in your case, I think a lot of the reasons why it was so difficult was because your identity was just being completely shattered. The world as you knew it, what was important, again, your identity as a boyfriend, all of this stuff, it just got absolutely shattered, right? So really it's not your life in danger, but it's your ego that was making it difficult, right? You were still clinging on to that old identity, and I think that's why a lot of people go through struggles. It's because the person that they thought they were has just been blown out of the water, and their belief system's just been blown out. But then, like you said, if we can perceive it as a fantastic learning opportunity, then fantastic, we've been demolished. Now we can build a lot stronger foundations, as you've shown now, and your priorities are straight. I actually think perhaps, as we were sort of alluding to before, perhaps it's just a necessary part of life. Maybe everyone goes on that journey thinking that certain things will give them happiness or a certain type of feeling, right? And perhaps we all have to go through something to realize, actually, no, that's not what is important to me. But yeah. I think for a lot of people, it's difficult to see that when you're starting out, right?
Yeah. Look, I was, by coincidence this morning, I was in a conversation with a woman. I don't know her. She doesn't know me. I know she's doing a great job in Bali. She's giving retreats. She's healing people energetically with vibration and energy. It's incredible what she's doing. And then it was in a connection with a brother. They was together. I'm not going to name any names, but they are not together anymore right now. She's pregnant, and they broke up during the pregnancy. I had an extreme life lesson in my life that when I've met the mom of my boy, Maximilian, that I was not ready to see the magic of a pregnant woman next to me as well. It went all quite fast. We was only 7 weeks together and she got pregnant. We had, after 4 months, a conversation about pregnancy, but she was already 8 weeks pregnant. But you don't know each other after 7 weeks or 4 months. But it was COVID. We lived together since when we was 2 weeks together. We were 24/7 together. Bali was more beautiful and bright than ever. There was no traffic, no pollution. We was living the dream, and everything went times 35 when it comes to speed, I guess. But then the reality steps in. Like, you don't know each other. You get to know each other's personalities only, I think, after a year maybe, or after 8 months, or when you come into difficulties. And so we had a pregnancy together. And sadly, I dreamed all my life of becoming a papa since a very young age, because I'm programmed to be a papa, because I come out of this loving family with a lot of kids, and my father is my best friend. And then when it happened next to me, I was not really ready for that. I was not ready to see what kind of miracle was growing inside of the womb of this mesmerizing woman next to me, how she was loyal to me, how she was loyal to our life, and how she was creating life for me. It was happening right next to me, and I was not feeling it. I was into the business, I was creating, I was financially surviving in different ways as well during COVID. And long story short, I lost a lot of magic because of that, what was happening around us. Vibrationally, we distanced a bit from each other. We lost each other during the way. I was searching for some recognition from people from the other side of the world. It came out and it demolished our relationship at that moment. And it broke her heart into a billion pieces because she's already pregnant, her body is changing, she's already getting insecure because of that. Hormones are going all the way. And then the man that is your only security and should be the three in your life carrying you towards that next stage is not safe at that moment, you know. And so today when I talk about this now with 4 years of lessons behind me, 2 years of being a papa together with her, but in a really difficult relationship, not listening to each other or validating each other's voice, just screaming to each other but not hearing each other, and 2 years as a separated papa. And I lost from those 2 years, 18 months, my boy to the south of Russia. And so now 4 years later, I've went through lessons that I deeply hope that no father has to go through, or no mom as well, because it was really painful for the both of us what we've done in the end to each other. And so what I'm trying to say is this morning I fell into a conversation with a woman that I don't know who's going through the same story with her ex-boyfriend right now. I even talked with the ex-boyfriend before they broke up about my life lessons and what I've went through and the pain, and I really shared it with all my heart and my passion, and I wanted to give it to him like, please don't make the same mistake that I did, because what you're living right now is pure magic. But he didn't hear it, the topic that we talked about before, because he was not ready to hear it yet. I'm not judgmental. I've been there for a very long time, so it happened to him what happened to me many times before as well. But what I'm trying to say is, I think as a coach, you can only really coach people on things that you've went through yourself, and not what you've learned in a book or through a movie or a podcast. And we're coming back to that again. We've talked about this before, but I think it's really important, and that's what something beautiful we do in the Brotherhood. We always talk from experience, right? And that's why I come back every Saturday, because I'm not surrounded by people who read something and then trying to educate me about what they have read, but about what they have lived. And there's nothing more brave and deep and powerful than a life experience where people learned from their mistakes and became a better person because of them. And if you have, now I'm turning 40 and I'm really feeling that I'm having this ability now to listen to those people. And it doesn't matter if they're 25 or if they're 91, they've lived it, and now I'm open, like really, every cell of my body is open. Listen, 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 so that you don't have to make that same mistake. And yeah, it's beautiful, life experiences, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super, super important, just because we can really learn everything from everyone. I said this in a previous podcast recently as well. A lot of the time we have these preconceived judgments of people, right? When we're operating from the ego. Okay, yeah, I've seen this type of guy before, or I know what he's on about. But if you can remove that and transcend beyond that, what you realize is that, okay, even if they've done stuff in the past that have maybe activated something within you, you can, if you're able to be like, you know what, today's a new day, let's just observe this from a fresh pair of eyes, you can actually learn a lot. You can learn a lot from people, their experiences and their work and what they do, but we have to be really open to learning. And like you said, I think just listening really intensively, right?
Yeah, and it's not easy because we're often very fast judgmental because of how someone is looking, what they are wearing, their appearance, their skin color, their everything. And so before they even spoke, we already have a story in our own mind. And so luckily, and this is what I love about growing older, this is all fading by life experience, and you become so different on that level. So I really love growing older. I'm looking forward to live in the present, like extremely, like to be more and more present, because it's going very, very fast. But I'm not afraid to grow older as well. I find it magical, man. I really love myself so much more right now than I loved myself a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm happy to be where I am right now. Yeah,
that's awesome. And the observation that I've seen is that you probably, well, I can't really comment about your wealth now, but point being is, back then, like you said, you were sort of living the high life and spending a lot of money and had all these material possessions, but inside there was something lacking. And
so beautiful that you touched that. Yeah, I lived. I've been very poor in my life. Like I've never been poor because I could always go to my parents and get a sandwich or live on the couch with my sister or something. So I think really poor people, they don't know where they are going to sleep this evening, and if they can get a sandwich today, yes or no, I think that's real poorness. But in our European, in my where are you from?
I'm from the UK originally.
Yeah. Okay. So from where we come, you're even poor when you just have $5 on the account, right? Or minus 5,000 because of your shit that you're doing. So I've been in that zone. I've been in that place, like going to that supermarket for my water, going to that supermarket for my meat, going to that supermarket for my vegetables because it was cheaper. I was even creating a business model on that back in the days, that I could connect all those supermarkets online and that people could shop online and have all the least, like the cheapest products together. But the moment I wanted to bring it out, someone was just before me. But what was beautiful, it was in the deep spirit of my life, and again an opportunity came, like entrepreneurial wise, like everything we experience we can turn into an entrepreneurship as well. Like you can bring something to people for that. But what I'm trying to say is I was really poor at a certain point from a European perspective. I was living on an attic with my sister. She had 3 boys. She was a single mom. I didn't have privacy. I was driving a really small car. I lost my driver license. I had to find a guy who was not working, who could drive with me from the morning until the evening. So I went through a really, really deep period. I had 150,000 euro in minus at one point. I was just mega reckless. I demolished a few cars in 1 year, crawled out of the cars, and then making photographs or making love with a woman in a demolished car just 10 minutes after an accident. I was insane. I was super crazy. Like I didn't give a fuck. And so when the penalties were coming in, or the fines, or the invoices, I just put them aside like they didn't exist. And there was a tsunami of debts coming behind me. And I was 27, 28 at that point, and so at one point I had to open my eyes. The tsunami was curling above me, and then I was like, okay, I need to make an Excel file. I need to contact all the people who normally would come to your house to take the furniture, or to your parents' house in one point, and then get a payment, installments and everything, and I got there. So at one point I had a choice in Belgium, or I had to go bankrupt and never become an independent person again as a status in Belgium. Like I had to become an employee then, and then they would take a part of my wage and put it towards the debt. Or I stayed an entrepreneur, but I had to solve 150,000 euro within a year and a half or something. And so I had an installment of 10,000 euro a month. And I took option 2 because I've never worked for a boss, and freedom is everything for me. I think it's the most luxurious and beautiful gift that we can have in life, freedom.
Agreed.
And so I worked the shit out of myself, man. I had a goal. I needed to sell pension saving contracts because I was in the business of pension saving contracts, and we got commissions 500 to 900 euro per contract. And so I just needed to sell the shit out of myself. I had a goal of 10,000 euro a month, and so nothing is coincidence. When this is your goal and you make the plan of action towards it, you have 10,000 euro a month. But I lived a year and a half alive of earning 10,000 euro a month, and then 24 hours later, everything was gone. Like everything was paid. So it was the most depressing year and a half of my life. I lived on an attic with my sister. I was really depressed. Life was passing me by. I was eliminating myself from social media because I had many, many friends when I was super successful. When we were going out, everybody wanted to be around this crazy Didi and have a story and have fun, and women and men and boys and whatever. And then when I lost everything, I lost 95 or 99% of the people around me as well. But that was good. That was a great natural selection as well, but it was a dark period. And so at one point, crazy enough, I was really young when I started to lose a lot of men around me, like friends. I come from a village. I don't know what happened in that village, but we have a lot of suicides in that village. Since like when you become 12, then hard drugs comes into your life in that village, fighting, knives, criminality. And so I grew up in a warm family, and so the kind of friends that were my friends didn't grow up in those families, and so everybody slept over with me, and my mom was the kind of mom that always said, come, sit on the table, eat, and then when you slept with me and you went out and your clothes would be smelling to cigarettes and everything, because that was the time that we were smoking everything and everywhere inside as well. in the morning you would wake up, your clothes would be washed, your shoes would be cleaned. And so that's the kind of family that I come from. And so everybody loved growing up in my family as well. They were all like little brothers, also to my parents. But year after year, my mother came crying on the bed because there was another suicide of one of those brothers that grew up with me. There was another car accident, there was another motorbike accident, there was another overdoses. And so when I did a tour at the age of 15 in the cemetery, I went to 15 friends sitting there and smoking a joint next to them, or having a drink and talking about how much I missed them. So I had a very broken heart about passing away too soon. And so I was very afraid of death. And now I've learned so many years later that I lived a super reckless life because all my friends were dying around me, and I always thought tomorrow can be my day. So when the car was able to drive 300 kilometers per hour, I drove 300 kilometers per hour with the car. I maximized life. I said yes to everything. Whatever you asked me, I said yes, because tomorrow can be finished. Tomorrow I can be with my friends on the cemetery. So bam, 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 bam. And so why am I telling this story? So when I was in debt, and I was working for a company that was 30 years on the market, Ergo, Hamburg-Mannheimer, selling pension saving, and suddenly this system broke apart and I had to find a new venture. And then I was selling mortgages with some fellow entrepreneurs, but it took 3 months before you get the commissions because people need to sign the acta with the notary after 3 months when you sell a mortgage. And so I had to find something else, and all my ego was crumbling. I was really tired of having that mask and fake it until you make it, and looking like $1 million but having €5 or minus 150,000 euro on the bank account. I was so done with this. So I made an agreement with myself, whatever you need to do to get rid of it, you're going to do it. And so I went to an HR office, and this girl in the HR office says, yeah, Didier. I said to her, look, in the afternoon I need to be free because I'm doing this new entrepreneurship with fellow entrepreneurs selling mortgages as an agency, and I need to be suited up by 1 p.m., 2 p.m. maximum. And she said, yeah, I have fabric jobs, I have fruits like apples, pears, you can put them into boxes, whatever. And it was all morning shifts, evening shifts, even night shifts. And I'm like, that's not my thing, I cannot do that. In the afternoon, I need to be in that entrepreneurship. So she told me, I have something, Didier, but it's something really special. And she said, you can earn a lot of money with that, but I don't know if you're open to it. I said, okay, shoot. And she said, yeah, carrying boxes. And I'm like, okay, what kind of boxes? Boxes with dead people, Didier. So in Belgium, een kist means een kist and could be many different meanings. Like it could be a box with apples or pears, but it could also be a coffin. Yeah, in English, these are two different words. In Dutch, it's the same word. And so the moment I realized it was carrying dead people to their last resting place, first to the front of the church, then to the back of the church, then back in the car, then drop them in their last resting place, man, I jumped 10 meters high. I said, no, I can't do this. It's impossible for me because my fear of death was so high. I hated those people who were burying people because they connected me with the pain of losing my friends, like the undertakers. And she said, before you say no, you can earn 30 euro per hour. And even when the funeral is only 1 hour, you get paid for 3 hours minimum. So it's $90 every morning. So the calculation machine in my brain started to work. And she said, before you make a decision, the guy is 30 years young, 36 years young, an entrepreneur, an undertaker, looks great, great energy. Go and have a chat with him. And she's like, you want to try? And she picks up the phone and she calls him. And I drive to 20 minutes to Antwerp from Beveren, whatever, and I see him. And the moment I walk into this room, there's the coffins everywhere and the étalage behind the window. And normally I was a guy, when I see a car with a coffin, I look to the other side. When I see a window with coffins, I look to the other side. I was so afraid of that, And then I walked into this room and he said to me, Didier, I need someone tomorrow in the morning. You look great, you need a black suit, a white shirt, a black tie, black shoes, and I give you the long gray coat, and I need you as a carrier. Do you want to do it tomorrow morning? But I really needed the money, bro. I really needed it, and I wanted to get rid of this fake life, of this miserable life of looking great, having suits, looking like $1 million, but having nothing, absolutely nothing. I was a loser, man. Like, everybody thought I was a giant of a leader, and because of my skills and my appearance and my voice, but I had nothing. And it broke me into pieces on a daily basis. And so I said, yes, I'll be there in the morning. And so I went home. I didn't sleep, man. I bought with some Moroccan people a mega cheap black suit because I always had colorful suits. and I bought $20 black shoes as well. Like I had nothing, but with my last money, I bought the suit. Long story short, in the morning, it was a very wealthy man that needed his funeral, so it was an oak coffin, and they don't nail it on the top, they don't screw it because they don't want to hurt the mega expensive coffin. So just this in my mind, that I was carrying a man of 100 kg, that there was a church of 3,000 people, that there were young people there, his daughters and his son who just had babies in the front row, breaking into a billion pieces. I'm a family guy, man. The first 15 funerals, I've been crying the shit out of me. I've been writing books to my family, how much I love them, to my loved ones, to my friends. But more than that, all my ego broke into a billion pieces because I was always the big business guy. And suddenly I was carrying coffins in an ugly suit, like a job that nobody wants to do in life. And people were recognizing me, you know. It was in the city, it was in my neighborhood, it was around, it was horrible. So my ego's splattered, you know, like I was demolished. My biggest fear in life, a confrontation on a daily basis. I needed to pick up the people in the freezers. I needed to check the tag on the toe. I needed to bring them to the ovens. Man, this was an insane experience in my life, but I was really good at it because I have a huge warm heart and I have a mega empathy. And so the people normally, they give like $5 or $10 to the people who carried the coffins, like a tip. But with me, they always wanted to hug me, man. They were crying in my arms. I was sometimes crying in their arms. I know, mega unprofessional, but when there was a granny next to the coffin of the man that she was together with for 65 years, I had her shoulder in my arms, you know, like every funeral that I've done in my life, it was 56 of them. I did the funeral as if it was for my own mom, you know. And people felt that. And so the mega successful undertaker, super wealthy guy, Guy is his name, we say in Dutch, he wasn't an easy guy, but he loved me more than anything because I was so connected with his baby and entrepreneurship. And he offered me his business, man. So I went from carrying my first coffin to a month later. So I was doing at 1.3 funerals a day. I got into it. I was earning €1,500 a week because of that. Then after 1 month, I became a ceremonial master. I went to the families for the last wishes. I had my career team under me. I was making €2,500 a week. And then I was doing next to that my mortgages that came through. And I was making like €5,000 a month with that. So suddenly I was again at €15,000 a month. And then I started to become a crypto broker and my money. So my debt was melting as snow in front of the sun. Like this 150K suddenly was finally gone. I went through the deepest hardship for that, and all my ego was shattered and on the side, and I was carrying dead people to go through my debt. Yeah, but now I have such a before I could not go to a cemetery. I was in full fear. Right now, when I want to find peace, I go to a cemetery.
But it's I love all of that, and the reason why, as some people may have gathered, is because the thing that you feared the most was the one that really started the transformation for you, right?
Can't imagine.
Crazy, right?
Can't imagine.
And I was talking about this with Ryan on the podcast as well. And a lot of the time when we feel resistance to something, there's two reasons why. It's either one, it's not meant for us, or number two, it's the thing that we need to do to reach the next level. And in your case,
it's a mega cliche, but the magic happens outside of the comfort zone, as we all know. And in this way, it was the furthest line possible in my human experience so far of being outside of my comfort zone.
And you had that human connection, right? And that's where I think the pivotal shift happened in a way, because before you placed a lot of value on, the money, the clothes, the cars, whatever it may be. And suddenly you're finding more fulfillment in just giving someone a hug who's had a relative or a husband who's passed away, right? And there's something about that human connection that is super, super powerful.
Yeah.
I think.
And you know what brought me the most in that moment as well? I've never told this to someone, actually. It always stayed within me. But when I was talking with all those elder people who lived 85 years, 90 years here on this globe, they were all okay with going to the next phase. They were all okay with transcending. And for me at that point, I wanted to live forever. You know, since I was a kid, like 8, 9 years old, I did my first Ouija board, and this brought me into shock because it went from 1 to 4, 14. I had a mega car accident when I was 14. I was 3 weeks in the hospital, but so I was mega afraid of death. I've told it a few times already, but because of multiple reasons. But they gave me the power to understand that at one point in life, our body and our soul is really ready, without any fear, to go. And this gave me such a comfort, man. And I didn't hear it once, I heard it 30 times. Yeah, the magic of love also is something that I've deeply learned in this journey. Like at one point, and this is not a notebook story, what I'm going to tell you right now, but at one point there's a couple that passed away that we buried. They were like 50 something years together, and they both need to go to the hospital. Papa, because they had 10 kids and all 10 of them were teachers, so I was with them for a long time on the table. Every dot on the I was mega important, every comma. But we had a lot of life stories that we told as well about their parents. And so mom was ill for one reason, papa was ill for another reason. They both go through a room to the same hospital, but mom needed the operation. So at one point, these old people are laying next to each other, and he gets the hand and he said, darling, I see you tomorrow. Good luck with the operation. Everything will be fine. That's what the kids told me, right? And so the family's there, everybody's there. Mom is leaving for the night operation. Mom passes away during the operation. She doesn't survive the painkillers. And father never knew the news. The kids knew, obviously, the 10 kids, but Papa never knew. And Papa passed away 3 hours later. He just followed his woman to the heavens. And so they never knew about each other, but so energetically they were so connected that they went together. And then in the end, I took them both out of the freezer, and for the last greeting towards those two people, they were hand in hand next to each other, and there was 2 coffins next to each other as well. And so for me, the power of love, man. Like for me right now in my life, everything is about love, man. Like this, for me, I'm starting to go on a journey from religion as well. Like I'm going to church on a Sunday while I'm not really a Christian. You can't force a certain young religion to me and say that this is the only way towards God. I don't feel that. My body says this is different. Humanity, life is older than 4,500 years. Creation is way older than 4,500 years, and so on and so on. That's maybe a different topic. But so God is love to me, you know, and love is the vibration that can survive everything. Cancer, heartbreak, whatever.
Yeah, 100%. That's what my girlfriend says to me as well. Like love always wins. Just as long as you're acting out of a place of love, it doesn't actually matter what you do. The universe will support you. And yeah, I love the way that you're mentioning God or a universe. And I think for a lot of people that sounds okay, but that's that sounds a bit crazy to me. Like that's not me. But do you know what?
I get it.
100%. But I think even if you don't think there's something like that, or you're not connected to that yet, I think that's cool. But look at the lessons that they teach people and think, okay, you know what? I don't necessarily have to believe in something greater, but what lessons or what do people learn from having that connected thing? And I'll give you an example, like the lessons, for example, that were given to you. If you perceive everything as a gift, even if it's not from the universe, but a gift to you from whatever, from your life experiences, from the people around you, right, what is this trying to show me? How can I use this experience to grow into a better person? So I think even if you're not connected to that, I think look at what you can learn from people. Like talk to someone who is spiritual, religious, and ask them, say, hey, can you break down what you believe but on a surface level? And I think if you start perceiving the world that way, for me at least, I think I think you could sort of get more joy out of life. You can grow more as well. I was really keen to touch upon the health stuff as well, because in your own journey, and I'm a big believer in this as well, I think the traditional health routes are, maybe they work for some people, but I think the holistic approach and I think there's traditional methods as well, which for me at least, those are the routes that I would go down if I had health complications. I was keen to touch upon that briefly as well, because obviously a lot of diseases now we know are caused by stress, and stress sort of activates these types of diseases, right? So I was keen to touch upon that journey for you, because it sounds like it stopped your autoimmune.
Oh man, I really love this journey. So because of this journey, I created a company. I've built on it for the last 4 years. BioKist is the name. I just exited this company because of a different story, which we touch later as well, probably. But I've created an in-house urine analysis app together with the team. So you urinate on a custom-made strip. Then when the urine dries into the parameters, after 60 seconds, you take a picture with the app of the urine strip. And then after 60 seconds, the app tells you about 10 parameters within your body, your health situation. Vitamin C, calcium, magnesium, oxidative stress, zinc, and so on and so on. And then the app gives you an instant plan of action towards nutrition and wellness to upgrade those numbers. So you create a crazy awareness of you are what you eat and how you treat your body, you know. So for me, this is a huge journey. Now this app is based on scientific proof, so the libraries of America, of Europe, when it comes to food and everything. And honestly, deep within my soul, I'm not following those libraries. I find them quite manipulated and directed. I think one of the biggest mafia industries right now is the medical world combined and in a collaboration with the food industry. They're making us ill on purpose. That's what I deeply feel. And luckily, I'm living in an island as Bali. That's why I'm so connected to this island as well, where I have the ability to step outside of my house and have all fresh fruit and a local market. And then now with all the tips that I've learned, when I buy my vegetables and my fruit, I put them into baking soda for 20 minutes. I get the poison of the pesticides, let's put it that way. I didn't know all of this before. I didn't have the consciousness about it. Like, obviously pesticides, they won't come off with just putting it under the tap, because then it would come off because of rain as well, and the farmer doesn't want that, because 80% of his crops get demolished if there are not pesticides on top. So getting the pesticides off is a job on itself, but once it becomes a structure, it's a structure. And then, for example, I only eat right now meat, a little bit of fish and fruits. I don't eat carbs anymore. I don't eat hidden sugars anymore. I don't eat pastas, bread anymore. Never say never. Let's say 95% of the time I don't eat all that nonsense anymore. When I'm on a restaurant, when I'm on a date, when I'm on a business communication, I don't put myself in a box, but I'm doing my best because I feel that this is right. First 5 years when I was living in Bali, I ate out every day thrice with my family because it's so easy here. You have all the options and it's cheap, like the food overall. But if I see a picture of me now 5 years ago or 3 years ago and I see a picture of me now, I look 10 years younger, bro. My hair is 10 times thicker, my body is sharper, my face is sharper. Everybody who speaks with me thinks I'm 35 while I'm soon 42B. And this is because of what I eat, man. This is because of the fats that I use. This is because of the oils that I use. This is because of the herbs that I put in my juices and what I drink and my superfoods and everything. This is because of my connection. And go further, I don't use deo anymore. I use natural stuff, you know, like without toxins. I don't use shampoos with parabens and whatever kind of toxins. I use a natural shampoo with natural 100% natural essential oils, not some cheap brand full of toxins, but natural. I pay a lot of money per single bottle, but my hair is better than ever. No toxins, no gel, no whatever. So no deo, no skincare. I don't believe in sunscreen as well. Like the biggest reason that we get burned and that we get cancer is because of everything that we put on our skin and wearing sunglasses, while our eyes or pupils have the ability to protect us once they see the sun. They give a communication to our cells like, hey, embrace yourself, we have sun. Once you wear the sunglasses, the eyes think, okay, cells, you don't need to embrace yourself, we're in the shade. So that's why we fuck up ourselves. And so the government is only manipulating all of this. And let's go further. All the heavy metals inside of the food, man, inside of the tap water. So luckily, a bliss, my daughter had an allergy to my tap water. I put 4 or 5 filters on my house right now. And now I rinse and I wash myself with drinking water because of her allergy. But when I did a test, and I did it with Dr. Peggy here in Batu Belong, she put a drop of living blood under the microscope. man, I felt it energetically for years, and I was doing detoxes, 16 days of juicing, the enemas, analyzing my poo like a freak. I never found one parasite because I felt I had parasites inside of me. I felt we all have parasites inside of ourselves. Well, very often, let's put it that way. But I couldn't find them. I couldn't catch them. But they were in my blood, bro. So when I put the living blood under the microscope, I saw the parasites, I saw the fungi, I saw the heavy metals, all this nonsense that is created by governments to close our beautiful third eye, or to make us less powerful, to make us less connected. I'm trying to step away from that as much as possible right now, and I feel better and more connected than ever. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I find this stuff super interesting. And if you talk to someone who's, for lack of a better term, stuck in the matrix, if you mention this stuff, they'll think you're delusional. They'll think that's false information.
That's okay.
And
that's everybody their journey. Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's why I think I kind of just think, you know what, if people have their belief system, that's fine. For me though, I share very similar beliefs to what you've said, but I found for me, it can get quite overwhelming sometimes. I'm like, well, fuck, like what can we fucking buy? Sometimes it's just easier to buy the fucking food and eat it, right?
I got you. And it's very, like when you would open my Instagram and you would scroll through the reels, my algorithm is now fully of health coaches, holistic food, and so on and so on. But it's also, this coach is saying that, and this blogger is saying that, and so sometimes, so you need, what I've learned, man, in life is just to feel, you know, like if you have a brain-heart coherence about a certain topic and you feel it's right, it's right. And so that if you follow that, you're already right. Look, man, I'm going to give you an example which goes way further than probably you and I have ever lived so far. But 10 years ago, I had a girl from from Brazil. And she passed Kuala Lumpur. I was living there. And I was a business guy. I was more in the atmosphere of that I was back then, materialistic, superficial, like not going so deep, not so connected with myself, and so on and so on. She asked me if she could sleep over. She's this kind of girl, she knows a lot of people from Instagram. She doesn't want to have sex with you or something, but she just is like, hey, can I stay over? It's cheaper, and she likes the backpack life, and it's cool. She does that, and it works. And she was eating and drinking only Coca-Cola and M&Ms. Morning, midday, evening. She had a six-pack. She had muscle. She looked ripped as fuck. And I was so confused, man. And she said, Didier, this is just the material. In what I transcend this is my choice. And she slept 16 hours a day. She was laying on the bed. And she called it astral traveling. So she said she had a boyfriend somewhere in the world. They never met physically, but they had an amazing relationship. They had astral sex. She turned that food into broccoli and into tomatoes and whatever. She just bought that because she really likes the taste. She doesn't go to the gym physically, but she goes training 2 to 3 hours per day, every day, and that's why she looked ripped as fuck. Man, now we're losing a bunch of people. I'm losing you. I'm even losing myself at a certain point. But what I'm trying to say is, whatever kind of reality that we feel is true for ourselves and we align fully with that truth, that is also just our truth at that moment. So if you say I'm fat, you're gonna be fucking fat. If you say I'm getting bold, you're gonna get more bold. We have such an impact on thoughts become things, and what we reason becomes a reality. This is insanely powerful, bro. The magic that we've been given here, we don't understand yet 5% of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we almost have to be delusional, right? We need to tell ourselves these stories, and I really think this is why people talk about affirmations and Joe Dispenza's work as well. And this is why, you know, you can heal diseases in your body just by telling yourself the right things. 100% agree. I think anyone can do that, right, with the right sort of practices. Time,
belief.
And belief, absolutely. There's so many different ways in which we can do that, I think. Time has absolutely flown by.
There's still so much to tell, bro.
I know. We'll get a part 2 and maybe
we can do that. There's still a lot to tell.
Yeah, we'll get a part 2 in because we've only just scratched the surface. What a fucking incredible life you've lived already. And
we all have, if we acknowledge it and if we open our eyes to what happened. Some people go through life as it's all normal and it's just a coincidence. And Einstein had this beautiful quote: "You can live life like everything is normal and just happening because it happens, or you can live life like everything has been a miracle so far." And I really love to live in the second way. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that. What we'll do, we'll go into the 3 closing traditions of the podcast.
Okay.
The first 2 are questions which we ask every episode, and then the third one is a question asked by one of the Growth Voyage community members on our Instagram. So the first one is a song suggestion.
A song suggestion?
Yeah.
Like what I like to listen to is a song?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow, I'm so bad at titles, man. You can't imagine. But funny enough, I think I'm a little bit a chick on that level. I like romantic music, and I love a female voice with depth. And now the journey that I'm right now is like Hillsongs. Is like songs to God, and there are a few songs that are really touching my heart right now that are constant on repetition. Yeah. It's a topic that we can talk about later in the next podcast more and more. I deeply believe there's a creator, like we call a glass, we call the creator God, and that's why I'm saying God right now. I know it's not easy for people to listen to that word all the time, but so worship songs right now with a deep female voice that is really connected to the words of experiences. I really love that, yeah. I feel that all the religions are based on wise words of people who lived them, like we are talking out of experiences right now. And so all the religions together are just a combination of the word of God. And so those lines that I'm listening to right now are aligned with what I'm feeling right now, yeah.
Fantastic, yeah. What we'll do, we'll put a link or a name in the description as well.
I'll do that, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Second one, I know there's many to choose from, but it is a book recommendation.
Bro, I've never read a book in my life, and I'm not proud at that. It's one of my big goals in 2025 to read my first book. I've never been able to read a book so far in my life. I skip alineas, I skip lines. I know it's out of this world. There's so much wisdom in books, and I just didn't have the patience to read a book, to read a page. So I skipped alineas, and then I had to go back because I didn't understand the page. And then after 10 pages, I just gave up. I've been too reckless in my life. Like meditation has never worked for me longer than 10, 15 minutes because I was thinking about the bills and the business and the whatever. And I feel that this year will be the year of deep meditation and reading a book, yeah.
Fuck yeah. And even with meditation, I think a lot of the time we tend to overcomplicate it, but all you can do is just sit there, and then if you find that your mind's wandering, cool, and then just bring it back.
Yeah,
and even if you just acknowledge that you're in the future or the past, then I think it can be simplified. And I think with the book one as well, I think I could definitely relate to that. When I first started, I was like, hang on, I'm reading all this shit and none of it's sticking. And I found what's helped me has just been like really actually taking the time to study the book, not just read it. Because at first I think it was like an ego thing. I'm like, okay, I need to get through all these books. And whereas actually I found that when I just take the time to really summarize, take notes on like a Google Doc and really sit through it, and then think, how does this apply to my own life? That's what's helped me.
There's so much wisdom in books, man, because whatever we've spoken about today has been lived 1 trillion times before, and so some intelligent people or giving people had the ability to write it down for the next generations to come. It's like people who plant the trees but will never live in the shade of the tree that grows, and I really appreciate, I really value that, but yeah, I haven't read those books yet. Yeah.
It's funny, I went to a museum in Amsterdam once. It was a museum on life, I believe, and there was this fantastic piece of art where it had this, it was like this super long piece of art where they had people at different stages of life or different centuries. So in the modern age, they had an image of women and people on their phones, and they were sort of saying rude things, like, oh, fuck you. What are you doing sleeping with him? What are you da-da-da-da? But then they had this throughout time, so they had like the Roman Empire, and they had these illustrations of Romans, and then they went even further back, and throughout all these periods, the speech bubbles were the similar sort of vibe. No, oh, what the fuck are you doing? Hey, fuck you. What were you looking at him for? Oh, why were you doing this? And so the message that I got from that was the same. The problems that we're facing now, they're the same as what they've always been throughout history, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are only such an amount of problems, and sometimes we have the victim ego that we have lived this and this problem is the most important thing in the world because we are living this and it's our life, but it has been lived many times before. And so be open to a book or to people who have lived it and learn from it. Yeah, 100%.
So this next question is from Callum McKenzie, one of our avid listeners, and he asks, who are 3 people you look up to most in this world?
Number one, definitely, this is a mega easy one. My biggest hero in my life is my dad, and I'm gonna tell you why. Even now, until this very day, I'm still learning everything from him when it comes to love, energy, and vibration. My father is like a Buddha. He went through the deepest storms. He fought for us to give us everything that we could have or that we need, but he never used it. He never spoke about it. He never was angry and said, hey, I did this for you, so now I'm expecting this. He understood, like, I chose to bring you to this world, not the other way around. I am responsible for you. You are not responsible for me. And so that's so powerful, man. And then the way he chose his wife and chose to be extremely loyal to her, yeah, man, until today, he's a Superman. He's my superhero, yeah. And he shows it in so many ways. He educated me about unconditional love, about the love for children, about equal love for each child, about loyalty for his wife, about zero aggression, non-toxic person, a non-violent person towards his wife. It's insane, man. He's too good to be true. So he's my number one, yeah. And then as a number 2 and a number 3, I could make it easy. It would be my 2 kids. They have taught me much more than any coach in the world so far. Without even being able to speak energetically, they are the biggest mirrors in my life. Maximilian as a boy towards me as a little boy and what I've went through with my parents and in my life, and Alicia as in every woman that you meet will forever be a little princess. They are just growing into a bigger body. And yeah, those 3.
Wicked. Love that, man. Yeah, this has been incredible. I can't wait. We'll definitely do a part 2. Yeah. So everyone keep an eye out for that. Where can people find out more about you? Can they sort of reach out to you on Instagram?
Yeah,
Where
sure.
can people find out more?
Yeah, easy. Yeah. I'm a very open guy and I don't need anything for that in return. Yeah, easy.
Okay, fantastic. Didier, thank you so much, brother.
Awesome, man. Cheers.
Appreciate you.